friends, Erica with 10 Pegs and Crowns, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am super excited to bring you a process video, very different from my unboxings. I have attempted to be very intentional about carving out some time to record my processes for my journaling entries, and so I'm really excited to bring you along as I work through the newest release from Open Journey, which is the Take4, the Marks Part 2. Last month we were working through Marks 1, and unfortunately I was not able to finish all 4 weeks of journaling. Just a lot of things came up, but I decided that I was gonna just go ahead and hold off and not try to finish and push myself to finish, because I knew then it would put me behind on this one. So I wanted to bring you a process video for the week 1 of this devotional release. And so for this week we are meditating on Matthew 12:38 through 42, and it is speaking about the signs and how Jesus said that this wicked generation was demanding signs, but the only one we would get would be the sign of Jonah, and so in that now, you know, one is greater than him. And so that's why I kind of opted out for the image that Ingrid released of Jesus. And I also included some of my very favorite all-time items from her shop, which are her wax seal stamps. And so I just adore her wax seals. I've always been a fan of them, but they are just my favorite because, you know, they just have a very, they have a faith underlying, you know, image to them, and you know, topic and meaning and symbolism. And so I really appreciate that she has come out with some of these, because I absolutely use them all the time. And so I was also able to use some of the stamps, the stamp set for the Marks release, both stamp sets. I love these little diamonds and the little arrows. Where are they? Right here. And so these are, I guess, my go-to elements from those stamp sets. But this was an image from the digital kit, and so I had it printed off at Office Max, picked it up, and then just added a few pieces of thread or yarn or whatever that is. And then I did watercolor on the bottom to kind of match this background. I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of did okay. It kind of matched. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, because when I sat down, I didn't really know how it was gonna, you know, pull together. But I'm really happy with how it came out, except for the fact that I had to tab it right here on the bottom, because when I close it, I like to see this kind of scattered. So I didn't realize that it would look best at the bottom from the outside. And so yeah, now I have 2 signs here. Hindsight, I probably would have not added this, since this was going to be right here. So, you know, it is what it is, but it still didn't, you know, it doesn't bother me. But I still like the overall finished product. So let's go ahead and jump in, and let's get started. Okay, friends, I'm going to go ahead and put the video on super fast forward. I've decided that shortening the amount of the process video is just, I guess, better. But I will start with trying to match the background of the printout with the kind of like the yellowy, orangey, brownish color in the background. And since I am going to go ahead and put most of the picture, or glue the picture to the top, starting from the top to bottom, I'm only going to watercolor the bottom, since that's the only area that's going to be kind of exposed, where the actual background paper page, I guess, ends. And I will be using the Prisma Vintage Pastels watercolor set. I absolutely love this watercolor palette. It's one of my favorites. I use it over and over again. I do wish that it had, or it included, a couple other colors, but I think that this is actually a really good set. I've had it for a couple of years, and it's lasted me this long. So I mean, it is actually worth the investment. I know they can be a little bit pricey. So but yeah, I do tend to think, like, I wish that it had, like, you know, several other colors, maybe like a, you know, like a real purple, like a true purple maybe, or like a true green perhaps, or a red, but, you know, kind of softer pastels. But overall, this is a really amazing watercolor palette. I am going to go and adhere the page that I printed off that I had printed off at Office Max, and this is from the digital kit from the Marks2 devotional. I absolutely love using the digitals, especially her background images. Ingrid does such an amazing job that the quality of the actual artwork or the page is absolutely insane. It looks so real. And so you don't really have to do much. And as you can see right here, that's actually what I'm doing. I'm just trying to match some of the colors. And I saw that at the bottom of this page, it had a little bit of like a blackish, like a faded black, but I don't have like a true brownish black in this color palette. So what I did is I matched it with a little bit of a purple, and it actually blended in very well. I was actually very surprised that it blended in. And I used a little bit of the yellowish brownish that I had in this. I know that it has a color. Let me see what color it is. It's the terracotta color, to kind of blend it in so it looked more seamless. And so it might not be able to show from my video, but it actually blended in quite well after it dried up. And you'll see that I add a little bit more brownish to like some of the other spots in this page that I felt kind of were a little too bland, only to kind of work in more of that brown terracotta color since I was going to be adding it to the bottom. These are some of the elements that I decided to use for these pages. These are the die cut add-ons for the Marks2, using some wax seal stamps that I've already pre-made ahead of time for, video recording purposes. And then I'm using this little like a, I guess, tabbing or sticker from the add-on sticker pack to kind of add to this element. And didn't know it then, but I do now. I probably should have just waited to add that. But I'm going to go ahead and glue down the wax seal stamp over the little metal part or the metal looking artwork image of this cluster. Not because it didn't fit or anything like that, but because I really wanted to use the wax seal as Jesus Christ conquers. That's the sign of Jonah, that one that is greater than that is here and that we're not able to recognize it. And so he is, that's why I wanted that piece of element. I am using the red element or the die cut element because I really wanted to tie in the red kind of thread that Ingrid has around the image of Christ. So I'm going to use some of that thread or some of that, I am stumbling over my words here, that red die cut element. But I did realize it had some of that greenish, colors to it. So I added that green die cut element as well to kind of tie in that green because there was absolutely no green anywhere else on my page. And then I realized, it actually looks really, really good with the green as well. It kind of gives it like, an offset, a contrast, some depth and interest to my page. I was going to go ahead and use black thread for this part. But again, I just decided that I probably should use red. Hindsight, I probably should have used black. It probably would have stand out a little bit more because there was already a lot of red going on in that corner, in that cluster. I had the red wax seal. I had the red die cut elements, and then there was some of that red threading on the bottom half of that circle towards the left-hand side. And so I probably should have used the black, but I don't mind that I used the red. I love using red colors. Like, I don't know, to me it kind of symbolizes, like just the hem of his garment. It's healing, that story of the woman who touches the hem of his garment. And I don't know, to me, I just love using the red thread. It has a symbolic meaning in my mind. But probably, I think I might add a little bit of black, now that I finished my journaling entry. I did go ahead and distress the edges of that, I guess, that rectangular sign sticker. Because I did want it to kind of, pop off the cluster. I didn't want it to blend in. And I did use a little bit of that double foam adhesive to bring up the cluster that had the wax seal and the sign, because I didn't want it to just kind of lay flat on the page. I am adding a little bit more thread to the bottom side of the bottom right hand side of this cluster, just because I thought it looked a little bit bare, in that it had a lot going on towards the top and it just didn't feel balanced to me. So I just added a little bit more to the bottom just to kind of, give it a more balanced feel, in my personal opinion, the way that I perceived my journaling page. I am adding a little bit of more die cuts to the top right hand corner. I just didn't want it to be so bare up there. And so I am going to go ahead and, sorry, I got distracted. I am using some of the elements from the Marks1 and Marks2 stamp set. I am going to show you what happened here, or I'm going to explain. I put on this little diamond element that had kind of designs on the inside, and then when I went to stamp it, you can see I guess I must have rotated the little stamping block, because I realized after I was done, I was like, oh, what did I just do? I stamped it wrong. And so I'm going to attempt to correct that by using the little triangle that's completely solid to cover that stamp, because I did not like that it was just kind of wonky looking in my eyes. So I covered it with the same stamping, the pumice stone, I think it was. Just to try to correct that a little bit, because I didn't want it to look so wonky. And so that was kind of like, a little hack that I used to try to correct that. I am going to go ahead and stamp a little bit of the diamonds in the alpha and omega. I do like a second generation stamping for the alpha and omega, and all that means is that when I put the ink originally on the stamp, I do stamp first on a scrap piece of paper, and then use whatever leftover ink is left on the stamp to create what's called the second generation stamp. And then I am also going to try to work in a little bit of the green color that's on the die cuts, just to kind of balance out the page, because again, I didn't realize when I picked the red die cut elements, the little thread, the little fabric looking die cut element, that it had green in it. And since the actual background page didn't have any green, I needed to incorporate some of that green into it. And I saw that Twisted Citron in the Distress Oxide line actually kind of matched very well with that yellow, I'm sorry, not the yellow, the green die cut element. And I was actually really happy with how that turned out, even though I'm not really a big fan of like the greens and trying to work those colors in. I was very pleasantly surprised how it balanced the page when I added the, I guess, the little diamond element in that color to kind of balance out my page. I am going into the sticker pack add-on again to try to see what word I can use for my tab. And I find another signs title header, I guess, sticker. And you'll see that I fuzz around with the placement of it. And like I mentioned in the beginning of my video, when I close my Bible, I like to see those tabs kind of scattered, no real rhyme or reason as to where they kind of belong. I really like them to look really scattered, but I do like it to be a little bit balanced. So I don't want them all at, on one side at the top or the bottom or the middle. So I kind of, scatter them throughout. And so when I go to place this, I do try to do this beforehand, so that the clusters kind of, I have an idea of where it should go, but I didn't do that till afterwards, and I've been doing that a lot lately, that I do the tabbing after I'm done. But I'm trying to get into the habit of trying to do it at first, before I even do a layout of my page again. When I did the splatters, I accidentally splattered some of the red splatters, I guess, onto the right hand side of the page, and so I tried to clean it up, and all I did was smear it. Even though it's watercolors, it still was very, very potent. So I add a little bit more water and then try to carefully rub it out, and then I'm going to use the heat gun as I lightly tug and pull on the page, so that when it dries, there's not a lot of crinkles. And that kind of technique actually, or hack, actually works for me a lot of, I want to say 80% of the time. I'm going to go ahead and use the Vintage Pastel watercolor palette from Prisma again. And when I like to use actually, who was it? I don't, Dots and Dust. I forget her name. Angelique, I think it was. If not, I will correct it here in a second. She uses watercolors to highlight her Bible scriptures when she's Bible journaling. And I had always used highlighters, and I actually absolutely love using the watercolors. So I use the watercolors now instead of an actual highlighter, especially when it's the same color palette that I use on my journaling page. I just think it kind of gives it a more cohesive, very flowy, very, it just looks better in my opinion because it's the same colors and color scheme and same medium, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's what I use to highlight the verse of the sign of Jonah in Matthew 12, 38 and 39. And again, I am using the same technique with the heat gun, tugging and pulling a little bit so that when it dries, it's a little bit, smoother instead of crinkly. And so, and you also want to make sure that that is completely dried before you close your Bible, because then it'll get onto your journaling page. But this is the final product. This is the final outcome. I absolutely adore and use Ingrid's artwork and her digital kits to do a pretty easy journaling entry, especially when I'm pressed for time. So as you can see, this looks like I put in a lot of effort, but really the only effort came at the bottom. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see your journaling for the Marks 2. And until next time, love you. Bye.